Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, everyone. This is me, Jonathan Alexander, and I'm here to host my show on a very special Sunday edition of Life, Laughter, Happiness. Today, I have my co-host Barbara here with me. Are you there, Barbara?
Yes, I sure am. Hi,
now,
Johnnie.
Hello. Now, the reason we are doing it on Sunday is because it's September 26th, which happens to be Barbara's birthday. Sorry, it's not Barbara's dad's birthday.
Johnnie.
Man, when you do things at the last minute, you sometimes follow yourself. And,
well, we just
Barbara,
did the title of the last minute, but we had this scheduled. This is a surprise birthday gift for my dad, Terry Michael Moore, Sr. Yes, September 26th. It's a special day because that's my dad's birthday, and we always cared a lot about our birthdays in our family. And Dad was one of the ones who said they're very, very important, and he always made a big deal about them, which was wonderful. So I'm making a big deal about his day, and we're dedicating the show to Dad.
That's correct.
Greatness and other things about dads, too. We want to talk about how important a good dad is, especially for a daughter. And I know firsthand, I had a great dad. In fact, in the title, I say the world's greatest dad. Because I really do feel like he was, and how lucky I am and blessed I am to have had a dad like that. Okay, go ahead, Johnnie.
Well, it's funny because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of days ago was Daughter's Day, and it was and that was interesting because of the fact that so that's another reason why you could be doing this. I think that it seems like, when I read about your father, I thought, boy, she really did spend a lot of time in an airplane because, your dad did it all as far as the Mexico kind of pilot there was. Alaska bush pilot, retired airline pilot, flight instructor. He must have really loved being...
sentence that I guess you don't really know a lot about my dad. Sorry if I'm echoing. I changed rooms.
That's okay.
My dad, he was a pilot as I grew up, which made things a little more exceptional because we would go just for fun for rides in an airplane. And we were very, very little. He met my mom in high school. I wouldn't say high school sweethearts, but he was a few years older. It was just the age. They went to the same high school. So you can imagine, while my dad was going to flight school and college, he had a wife and two little kids. I look back and I think, how did this guy do it? But I think I get a lot from my dad, the tenacity and the work ethic and just watching him. And he never did complain at all. So, not that I saw. And that man worked so hard. Hey, Johnnie, are you there?
What? I'm here. I'm listening to you.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But it just seems...
Anyway, hold on, Johnnie. I started rambling, but no, my dad, as you were saying, yes, he's done a lot. And yes, I did fly a lot. But sometimes when kids have dad pilots, it's not like they can go take their family for plane rides. He just happened to be a seaplane pilot, and we are from Seattle, Washington. Well, Spokane. I was born in Spokane, Washington, where my mom and dad were born and raised. And then my dad moved us out when I was a little baby to Seattle. Thank God, because Seattle is an awesome city. And he had always had dreams of being a pilot. So he started out working on Lake Washington and Lake Union in Seattle, Washington, as a seaplane pilot. And so we were able to go on those. Have you ever been in a seaplane, Johnny?
No, I haven't. What is that?
Well, they land and take off in the water. So they have pontoons. Have you seen that?
No, I never heard that. But I guess what you're saying is
Oh,
they
my
land.
gosh. Wait, Johnny, are you telling me you've never seen a seaplane?
I've seen one, but I've never been in one.
Okay. Well, because I was wondering, I mean, you are around water. You must see them landing sometimes in your life. Haven't you ever in real life seen a seaplane land on water? Have you?
I mean, I might have seen a seaplane land in the water, but I've never actually been in one, no.
All right. Wow. Okay, well, you have something to learn, something exciting to learn.
Yes.
So you can imagine if you're just a little kid, it's exciting. I mean, way better than any roller coaster you've ever been on. And my dad was an exceptional pilot. Whenever he moved to a new company, immediately within a week or maybe right that first day, he became the chief pilot. He just really was good. Very, very, very good pilot. And like I said, a flight instructor too. Not everybody can teach what they know how to do well, but he could. And then I even had a few flight lessons from my dad. I had a logbook. My brother did as well. And my brother made the newspaper once with a picture of himself on one of his flight lessons with my dad when he was 11. And I have pictures.
What do you mean newspaper
moments.
one?
Oh, somehow my brother, there's a newspaper clipping about how a local boy was being taught how to fly by his father. And there he was.
Oh, okay.
Sitting there. Yeah. Okay, so I have the clipping somewhere. So that was cool. And those were really great memories. I was 12 years old. My dad got a new job, which was basically a real different lifestyle. He was moving to Alaska to be a bush pilot. And that's very, very dangerous. And I was so upset because that meant that he was moving away. I wouldn't be able to see my dad every other weekend. I was 12. I was pretty devastated for a while. But everything fell into place, and we would just visit, and our visits would be much longer up in Alaska, and they were so fun. And the little town was just really adorable and quaint. Have you been to Alaska, Johnny?
No, I haven't, but I've heard a lot about it. Now, that's where he was an Alaska bush pilot, correct?
Correct. And he did that for, I think it's 6 years. It could have been longer, but he did that, and he would have kept going on up there. But I needed him. I needed my dad back in Seattle. I was a senior in high school, and long story short, I was no longer living in my mother's household. Nothing to do with my mother, but to do with something else. That's a whole other show. So I desperately needed my dad. I basically left, went up for my vacation and said, I'm never going back. And he did not want his daughter on her senior year, last year of high school, to have to move schools to go to Ketchikan High. I was thinking you might ask me what city in Alaska my dad lived in.
Okay, what city was it?
Ketchikan, Alaska.
Really?
Heard of it? Yeah.
Ketchikan?
Ketchikan.
Why is it named that?
Say that again.
Ketchikan.
Yes. A lot of names of cities in that area, Alaska, and the Pacific Northwest are Indian, Native American Indian names. And I'm assuming that is probably one. So it might seem strange to you since you're from the East Coast. You have different kinds of names. But to me, it didn't seem too weird. It was a cute name. And we used to call it Catch Me If You Can. And, hey, who's interviewing whom here? You've got to start asking me some questions. I mean, there's a lot to go over.
Well, I mean, okay. I mean, now let me ask you this. Maybe we should start, because obviously, we're talking about you when you were 18 years old. I mean, maybe let's start off with the stuff when you were young. I mean, when did you realize that you had a special relationship with your dad? That's a good question.
Yes, that is a good question. I really noticed this, well, from the beginning, because I have no memories of any bad or not feeling a real close bond. Okay, but the first real memory that was special was that he had a big chair, and this is when my mom and dad were still married, and I was 5, and he would let me squeeze in on the side and sit next to him and watch Hee Haw. Have you heard of Hee Haw?
I saw the movie. I saw it. I don't remember it, but I saw the movie. I mean, TV show. Saw the TV show.
And you know who starred in that? The female
Goldie Hawn.
singer? No. It has to do with Hugh Hefner.
Oh. I don't know who that is.
One of his girlfriends.
Okay,
this
which
has
one?
to be in the 70s since, I was 5.
Barbie Benton?
Yes.
Oh,
Barbie
okay.
Benton. Right. And so I was 5 years old, and when Barbie Benton would come on the screen, we both would just love her. She was pretty, so beautiful, so cute, such a sweet personality, and her voice. And it was all country music she was singing, and I just remember that memory, and that was our special bond, and we did that together. And there was so many more, but the ironic thing about that story is I met Barbie Benton up at the Playboy Mansion, and I told her, I said, I knew who you were before I even knew who Hugh Hefner was. And then I told her the little story, and she liked the story. She was real sweet. So that was cool. It's very cool. And my dad even, he's been at the mansion a few times. He had a great time with Hef. They had a great conversation. They had this cute conversation. But we'll stick to your interview, and maybe we can come back to that later.
Okay. So you saw Hee Haw, and I think one of the things that's nice is how supportive your dad was about Playboy, because a lot of fathers wouldn't have been, or may not have been. You know what I'm saying?
That's true, but so obviously that's jumping ahead so much, but the foundation of I think it's a total fine statement to make, because it leads me into this. Okay, my dad was open with Playboy. Well, did that just start when I became a Playmate about being open and supportive? No, it started in my early years. My dad went to every single game, and I was very active in sports. I lived for softball. And when I was in junior high, as a freshman, I even started on the varsity team. And I was a 4-year letterwoman, super serious about softball. He was there. I'm not saying he was there if he didn't live in that town, but if he was living in the state, he would be there. And I always just felt like he believed in me so much. I felt like my dad always thought of me as being extra special, just great in every single way, a little smarter than everybody else. had more intuition than most women and just lifted me up, just made me feel like I could accomplish anything without even saying, you can accomplish anything you want, Barbara. No, it was just by living with him, just talking with him. And let me go back to when he moved away. How did I deal with that? Well, it wasn't something I really had to deal with, per se, because my dad did this. Every single week I would receive a letter, and he did this for my brother too. I would get his letter and open it. In that envelope was a self-addressed stamped envelope. So it would be so easy for us kids to write him back, which I did right away, every single time. And that is, let's see how many years that was. That's a couple years right there of writing every single week. And I have every single one of his letters still. One day, I was around 21 years old, and I had a new boyfriend. And I was a flight attendant. I was living in Nashville. I had a great boyfriend. And I was looking through these letters, putting them in piles. There were so many. And he goes, what are you doing? And I go, I'm just organizing them. I just thought, the ones that just are one line. Because sometimes it would be just one or two or three lines, but that was communication. And you know what that did? That made me feel protected, close, a bond. It was just keeping it, and it actually cemented it even more than if, say, a daughter, a girl, has a dad who lives in the same home with them, but maybe they hardly speak, or that dad doesn't go to her band concerts or her volleyball game or her softball game or even talk to her or drive her to her homecoming game that she's cheerleading at. Or say, here's the Sears catalog, circle every single thing you want for Christmas. And I did, and I got every single thing I circled, and my brother didn't believe my dad, and he circled a couple things, and that's what he got. And you should have seen my pile. It's just like interesting way to teach somebody how to trust you, but I always...
He's like, oh, no, I'm not going to get that.
Spark. And that was so funny. Oh, gosh, that goes down in history as one of the funniest things ever. So I'm just saying that you could have a dad that's living with you closely, physically, but you do not share that bond. And I had that. And just that letter writing, and that was so smart of him to send a self-addressed stamped envelope. Oh, anyway, the boyfriend said, well, you should never, ever. I go, well, maybe I should just throw away the envelopes. That you should never throw away one letter, nothing, not one envelope and not one letter. And I go, wow. He goes, do you know how many letters I have from my dad? And I go, how many? And he said, not one.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did learn some life lessons from that boyfriend who's still my friend to this day. Actually, he's the one that lives out in Florida I was telling you about. But he has a home. He has an extra home just down the beach from you in Destin, Florida. So
that's right. Yeah.
Yes. So, yes, and he taught me a lesson, like, do not take that for granted. And so that's another light bulb went off in my head. Like, hey, this is rare. Not every girl has a dad like this. And plus, everybody loved him. All of my friends loved him because he was so funny. And he tall and thin and in great shape and strong. And I was in gymnastics, and he would come and do, I forgot the name of this yoga move. I mean, his whole body was parallel to the ground while he held himself up on just his palms with his elbows tucked into his sides. Okay, I'm sure you can imagine that pose now.
No, I don't.
He could do...
Don't try to describe
it. Well, maybe the listeners can imagine it. Johnnie, okay, you're holding your whole body up. You are basically standing on your palms. Okay,
right.
So, big, your body, get on all fours. Put your elbows to your side. Place your palms on the ground. Balance your upper body and lift. Straighten your legs, facing the floor, and lift your legs off the ground. And hold it. Now, can you imagine?
Oh, okay. I got it. He could do that.
Okay. Yeah, he could do that. And now my dad would come to my gymnastics. I did that till I was about 12. And so that's many years of him coming to the gymnastics. And they all loved him. And he would do that on the rings. And, oh, yeah, they went crazy. Another little cute thing was at my Bluebirds. You know, there's Bluebirds and there's Campfire Girls, there's Brownies. Like, it's like the girl thing. It's like the Boy Scouts, the girl thing of that, okay? Have you heard of it? Bluebirds? Johnnie, have you heard of that?
No, I've never heard of I've never heard of Bluebirds.
Campfire Girl?
No, I've heard of Brownies, but not Bluebirds.
Okay, so the Bluebirds, you start out and then you become a Campfire Girl. The Brownies is a different organization. I was a Campfire Girl. But before that, when you're really little, you're a Bluebird. It's so cute. You have your it's so cute. And I ended up in the newspaper with my Bluebird outfit. Actually, no, I had to become a Campfire Girl. But so
how old were you?
One of my 7.
Okay, that explains it.
So, yeah, I think it was right when they got a divorce, and it was one of my first times where it was just my dad and I, which was a new thing, and he had to take me to my Bluebird meeting instead of my mom because it was his weekend. So he took me, and I remember that, well, everybody remembers this, a ladybug landed on my hand during the meeting, and all the little Bluebird girls gathered around me and looked at the ladybug on my hand. And it just stayed there for a long time. And so ever since then, we have this little ladybug emoji symbol. But that's always been special to us. It's like our little symbol that, see, you were the special one that the ladybug landed on.
Right.
Things like that. They're just so sweet that some people don't have. And some people, like, let's talk about my daughter. I have a 14-year-old daughter, and her dad passed away. He was killed by a drunk driver when she was not even 2 years old. My relationship with my dad, and I think she never will have that. She will never be able to experience really that. I did marry. She did have a close relationship with that. If I would have stayed married to that person, they probably would have had that bond. You don't have to have blood, okay? I'm not saying that. But I wasn't able to stay married to that person, so, you know, then she didn't see him anymore. She does not have what I had. And I think about this, and I think, oh, gosh, it's kind of sad. It's not so sad because they don't really know what they're missing because they've never had it, but she sees my relationship. And I told her once, I said, my dad can, you know, step in and be your dad. He was always there for her first day of school. We were very lucky when he retired because he was living in California. So we had him around, and that was wonderful. But she said, Mom, it's not the same. That's my grandpa. She's very wise. She knows. She knows what I've had, and she knows that she doesn't have it. And she is okay with it, but it would have been nicer for her to have it, wouldn't it?
Yes. So she's never had a father figure?
Johnnie, I just explained why. Let's go back. Okay. When did her father die? How old was she?
He was 2.
Okay, so I guess she had a father figure up until she was 2.
I'm talking since then. I mean, has anybody been
I just
been
said
able
that I was married. Okay. Did you not listen? I'm sorry,
okay,
people. I'm not being rude to Johnnie, but I'm kind of wondering. Didn't I just say she did for a little while I was married, when she was little? I'd say probably 3 to 4 years old. That's a short amount of time.
Okay.
I mean, she was a little girl. Of course, she's going to look up to her father figure if he's nice to her, which he was. But that didn't last because I got a divorce. So
okay.
he wasn't near us, and he didn't adopt her. Okay, so I have always been the only, since her father passed away, her only legal guardian. So here's the thing. I never had to say, here's your every other weekend with your dad, or nowadays they're doing 1 week on, 1 week off. I have many friends who do that. Yeah, they're single moms, but they have an entire week off their whole life, raising their kids to do whatever they want, and then 1 week on with the kids. I have never had that. I've never, ever had that. I've been doing it. I've been doing mommy and daddy's role for all these years, except for maybe one. And there are good benefits and there's bad benefits because, for example, what if I didn't like her dad and I had to send her off with a person that maybe I didn't trust her, I felt uneasy about, or there's a lot of different scenarios. There's so many people out there who have to do that, Johnnie. There's so many women and even men who, okay, it's your turn, I got to send you off and I don't trust them, or I don't like their new person in their life. You know, maybe it's really something I never had to deal with, and I actually think about that a lot and think I'm glad. I'm glad because you never know. You never know. Maybe he would have gotten a new woman who was mean or didn't watch her in the pool. Something like that.
Right.
So let's get back to the importance. Well, I've been trying to give you examples of how it's so important to, well, being a good dad is so important because it helps that girl become a better woman, a better human being if they have a good father figure. And there's a lot of studies out there about it. So what benefits do you think would be good, say, for a father and daughter who have a healthy, close relationship? How is that going to help that young woman in life?
I
think of anything?
It gives her an example of what a good person can be, or what a good male figure can be. I think that could be another way of looking at it. I mean, like sort of like your dad is a good man, so you know it's good to have an example of a good man in your life, so that you can weed out it from the bad ones. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes so much sense. And that is, I would say, the first point I would even make, because basically you're also saying that you are not a man-hater because you realize, hey, this guy raised me, and he's good, and I love him. Not all men out there are bad. And you can weed out, like you said, weed out the bad ones, because I think if you had a good role model, you're more apt to have that intuition, like, oh, they're a bad guy, because you know what good is. Or simple things like chivalry. My dad always opened my car door for me. I don't care if you're on errands. I don't care what you're doing, if it's quick. No. He always opened the door for me. So it's harder for me to accept a man that does not do that. I have standards because my dad instilled it in me. So, and it's very true. I cannot let that one go. Etiquette is so important. Another thing that my dad did for us, he took us out to a wonderful fancy dinner on those weekends. One night would be a very nice restaurant, fancy, just great entrees. And one night would be him cooking for us one of his great dishes, the medium rare steak. Very nice. We'd all sit together and we'd sit in front of the TV if we wanted to. He was not strict like that at all. But you had to be polite. He wanted you to be clean. He wanted you to know right from wrong. And then if you behaved, everything would be so great. It's a fine line because you could just be, oh, my dad's so cool, he lets me do whatever I want. Yeah, my dad let me do whatever I wanted, but he made sure I earned that first. So earning that is your behavior. And I always wanted my dad to be proud of me. So when I walked out that door, I would hear his voice say, you know, right from wrong. You don't steal. You're always kind. When I catch myself being not kind, like a little bit of a bitch, I mean, I am a female, I think of that back then and say, hey, I'm not being the best person I could be. Was that kind? No, it wasn't. Change your behavior. Because what my dad said to me while I was growing up, so many examples. I mean, I could go on and on about my dad, which I should a little more because it's his birthday.
Right.
But, the real point of this show, the real moral of this whole story is how important it is a father-daughter relationship and how much I appreciate it and how it could really make you a great person if you have a great dad. So why? Why am I so lucky? Why did I have this? Why do you have it? You have a great dad, too.
Yeah, I do. I mean, he's always been kind of, what's interesting about him is that he's very open-minded. He's an extremely open-minded guy, a devout Buddhist, meditates every day, you know, just like, but extremely open-minded. Always been sort of open-minded with what I'm doing. I mean, like, for example, he is, whenever I talk to him about the show, he's always stood back and let me do it. He's never, my father is like ran a company, you know, he ran a business, you know, so it makes me wonder, like, if he sees his son doing something, is he gonna, like, put his hands in it, you know, is he gonna, like, make sure that, you know, suggest his son do something a certain way? He's never done that. He's always let me do it my way, which is always very good.
Well, okay. So going back to your childhood, that makes sense. Why you are, it really just makes sense. It's clicking right now of why you are even doing this podcast, Johnnie, and the topics that you're drawn to. Because I really didn't know that about your dad, that he meditates every day, because that's not something of the norm.
Yeah, you would
really
go downstairs and then you would see a blanket over him and he would be sitting in a chair with his, I mean, I asked him one time, why is he a Buddhist? You know what he told me?
What?
Well, see, a lot of, I'm not putting any down any religion, you know, but his problem was with a lot of the world's religions is that they tend to set it up to where that you have to believe this, And Buddhism is not based on having to believe in anything.
Johnnie, I'm sorry. Johnnie, this is really kind of my show with my dad today, and
okay, my apologies.
I'm not into learning about Buddhism right now.
Sorry.
I don't want to be rude, but that's really
no, you're right. You're right. You're right. We got way off topic.
All I am merely saying is I can see why you are open with all of the topics you do now as an adult, because your father instilled in you something. That's great. Now let's stay focused.
Okay. My apologies.
What's your next question?
Well, my next question is that, I mean, I imagine your father is quite open-minded as well. Am I right about that?
Yes, he is.
How so?
Well, would you like to know some examples?
Sure.
Okay. My dad loved all people. I remember this very well. And I also remember a lot of other families near where I went to school in a very rural area. My dad lived in Seattle, like I said, flying out of there. My mom lived out in Snohomish County. So I did notice, there were many, many great people, but I did notice closed-minded people out there. We didn't have any people of other nationalities, very, very little. It was really very white. So I saw the other side of that. Like a lot of the kids I went to school with never had even been to Seattle, which was only 45 minutes away. But to them, that was a long way, and they were out in the country. They had never even been there. So my dad worked with a lot of different types of people, and we went to their homes. And I remember one of these families, they were Vietnamese. Oh, gosh, did they ever cook well. I remember I was 8 years old, and we'd go over. My dad had a new girlfriend, and I loved her so much. And this was even added to the bond and the relationship, because we loved this woman who was totally cool and pretty and, you know, an Amazon woman and Dutch and eccentric. And she would give me makeup and little purses and jewelry, and everything stayed. I still have to this day. And it was just, everything was special, and I kept it special. And so we were at these people's home where my dad, he took us, he worked with this man. They would not eat until we ate because we were the guests. And their Vietnamese food was so delectable. I still remember it to this day, and that's why I love Vietnamese food. And so many of my friends back in the country, they never even tried it. I remember I was playing softball. I had to practice, or we won a game or something. My dad just came over. He thought it was the most normal thing in the world to bring sushi. We were 12. People never even had it before. That was the first time they ever were introduced to sushi. And they remember it to this day. And they're like, remember when your dad brought sushi, Barbara? I never had that before. I've loved sushi ever since. He was open. He loved all cultures. He loved all people. He was not racist one bit. Those are the values that have been instilled in me. There's no doubt. I do not take what is not mine. Karma comes around for people like me. That's why every time I go outside, there's something that I've been thinking that I need, and it's right there. Happened yesterday again. Even Elkie, my best girlfriend, was here, and she's like, things just come to you. Things just come to you. She was serious. It's karma. It all starts with, well, not all starts with, I'm going to say, it all starts with your dad when you're young. There's a lot of great people who didn't have one, like my daughter. Okay. A lot of it starts with that, though. And that is so I want to say important because it is, but I feel it's just such a blessing. It's just such a blessing that I've been given.
I know. I mean, it seems like a lot of your morals came from that childhood that you had.
Yes. What about other things like tenacity, which I was talking about earlier? And also I wanted to say, Johnnie, I left everybody hanging. Sometimes I'll go on and then what was the moral of this story? Okay. I wrote it down. Okay, remember in the beginning of the show, I said I needed my dad. I was a senior. I was going to be a senior in high school. It was December before I left. I went up to Alaska. My brother was already living there because he had been kicked out of the house by our stepfather a year before. And he was living up in Ketchikan, Alaska, going to high school there. Unfortunately, he did have to endure that, but it's okay. He made lifelong friends, but it wasn't easy. How would you like to move from your cool high school, you're a star athlete, and on your senior year, you're up in Alaska, the tiniest school, probably had, 100 people there, maybe less. You're up there, nothing to do, no friends. Well, that's what he had to do. But I came up, and my dad said, I'm sure he was saying to himself, it's been really tough for Terry, her brother. I can't do this to my daughter. I was in softball, major league. I had been in band, playing the flute for 7 years. Usually first chair, he'll tell you, oh, she was always first chair. Always competitive. Loved it. I was just very involved, and I was in love, puppy love. I had a boyfriend. You think I want to leave him? Saying this is the third year of that boyfriend that I mean, when you have a boyfriend and you're that age, that's devastating. Got to have to leave that guy. And there was just a lot of great going on at school. My dad didn't want me to miss my senior year going there. So he moved down. He left that very high-paying job in Alaska as a bush pilot, chief pilot. Okay, yes, it was dangerous.
Wow.
Yes, he lost more than 6. I thought it was 6 friends, pilot friends, never found. All passengers killed, pilot error, a lot of it. And my dad would get up in the morning and have to go scrape 2 feet of snow off of his wings. Mind you, this is out there on the ocean, and you have pontoons, and you're at a dock, and it's winter in Alaska, and then you have to go fly. Can you see out the windshield? Do you think, Johnnie, can you see out the windshield? Tell me.
No.
How do you fly?
Well, I don't know.
How do you fly?
I have no idea.
Exactly. It's called on instruments. That's how you do it. So basically you're flying, and you have to know how to read those instruments. So say you're coming in for a landing, and all you see out of your windshield is this pure white because it's fog. And your pontoons are going to hit water, and you're going to have to land in that water. And you do this all day long for years, okay? But what if there's a log there? You can't see it. I mean, it's still very risky. You have to be able to read your instruments. Okay, say you read your instruments wrong, and you are coming in for your landing, and you think you're 1,000 feet above sea level, but you're really 250 feet above sea level. You think you have plenty of time to come in for your landing, but you do not. What happens is, this is why they don't find very many planes. People think, oh, they just crashed against the side of a mountain. What happens a lot of the time, and this is why they're never found, is because they're going full bore and they go straight into the ocean, and they basically go down to the bottom. and bye-bye. You're never found. That's what generally happens because the pilot cannot or did not read the instruments correctly. Well, my dad did read them correctly. He has had a lot of crazy things happen. Oh, he can tell a story better than anybody. In fact, he's writing a book right now.
Okay. What kind of book?
This kind of book is a memoir. It is a book of him describing things that have happened in his life. A lot of those as a bush pilot in Alaska. But there's many, in Seattle as a seaplane pilot. There's just so many stories. And he's been published in aviation magazines talking about different airplanes that he has flown in. Like the Grumman Goose. The Grumman Goose, that was my favorite to fly in. Not everybody in Ketchikan who was a pilot got to fly it because there wasn't very many out there per company, maybe one or two. Always the chief pilot was flying the Grumman Goose. There was even a TV show with the Grumman Goose in it. Any air TV show out there. I mean, this is a featured airplane. The whole fuselage actually lands in the water. So on the wings, there's two sides has pontoons, but the actual whole fuselage lands in the water. But the most exhilarating part of the flight is the takeoff because you're in the water and you've got the little hole, you're looking out your little window hole. Not a little hole, but a little window. And when the pilot, puts the throttle down, that water, and you feel like you're underwater. You feel like you're going to go down like you're a submarine. I mean, it's just like you can't see out. There's just, and it's loud and it's shaking and you're out there in the tundra. And all of a sudden, zoom, you're up flying. It's quiet. And you feel like so light. But that initial takeoff is so exhilarating and exciting. It's just, you got to do it sometime. You got to do it, Johnnie. You got to.
Wow.
You just have to. Well, anyway, he was the best, and I've always proud of my dad because he has accomplished so much. And he went to the UW, college graduate from that University of Washington, amazing university. He's super smart. He's so funny. He has a lot of pride. He just always has been loved by so many. I used to do GlamourCon. You know GlamourCon, when you go and sign autographs for your fans, and everybody would come, a couple times a year. My dad, he would be my helper. He would be standing on the side because there'd be a big crowd of people, and he would just talk to the people and tell them my prices. And they're like, "That's your dad? Wow, this is so cool," because we're signing the Playboy stuff. It would be some weirdo looking at everybody's stuff, but hey, it was just normal. I'm a Playboy playmate. He was super proud of me. Sitting there like gawking at my photos. But in 2010, I did another layout for Playboy with my centerfold photographer, and I was Miss December 92. So I was shooting covers. I think I have 15 covers I've counted, and of just Playboy, other covers, but my gosh, there was a time where you're a playmate, you work a lot, you shoot a lot, you are shooting everything, and you're traveling everywhere for Playboy. And then there's some years, you are 20 years later, let's say 20 years later, there might not be as many photo shoots. That makes sense, right?
Right.
20 years after, okay. So when they called and said, we're doing we're re-showing, featuring a few playmates from the 90s, and Steve Wada is going to shoot you, chose you. I was excited every single day, hard. I was ready. And Here I'm shooting it. The pictures came out. Dad's at Garmicon. I'm signing it. And somebody says, oh, what do you think? Wow, your daughter. I mean, she's amazing. And maybe they mentioned my age or something at the time, and he's like, that's not good for her age, whatever it was at the time. Like, I think 42. That is even amazing for a 20-year-old.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's like he always thought, okay, I wasn't just great because I am this. I am this, and I am the greatest of that, too. He's my dad has instilled in me this confidence. When I became a dancer later in life, that was a dream of mine. I became one, ballroom dancer, and my dad was there, too. He even flew to other states to watch me compete. He was there, and he's super proud of that accomplishment that I did. So there you have it. And he's going to write that, too, in his book, some stories about everything, probably the ballroom world. There's probably stories about everybody in his life. I think it's going to be good.
Great. Now, you called him before the show to wish him happy birthday, right?
Yes.
I know. Yeah, I was
he
saying
didn't
that.
Answer. I bet he's listening right now. I sent him the link, and that was a surprise, so he could see it said, happy birthday, Dad, and then his name and his birth date. And that will be there forever. And I just want to say thank you so much, Johnnie, for, producing this show and going with my idea and doing that.
It was your idea, yes. Do you...
I'm not saying that's my idea. I'm just saying thank you for doing my idea with me, and I appreciate it. Not that you wouldn't, because it's a great idea.
It was a great idea.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Maybe this is a good question. Have you inherited your dad's sense of humor? Do you and your dad have the same sense of humor?
That is such a good question, and the answer is totally yes. Even though my mom was funny, and she was so funny and quirky, and she was witty and totally smart, my dad and I think I really did inherit a lot of his qualities. And one definitely is the sense of humor. And it's silly, too, because I do silly things that I never would do in front of other people, and I'll role play, and I'll do different accents, and I'll act crazy and stuff like that. And my dad would just have us rolling doing stuff like that growing up. And I do that for my daughter. So I know there's a lot of people out there, a lot of parents would never do a crazy thing in front of their kid, So, yeah, everything's handed down. Thank goodness. And I didn't have a very good stepfather. My dad wasn't there, obviously, living there every second of the day, knowing, this guy is not being very nice, not being nice to his own children. But when he found out, and this is what I left, it's my cliffhanger. So my dad, I was saying, moved down without a job. He left that high-paying, well, that's what happened. We went on talking about bush pilots. But he left that job in Alaska to move down to Seattle without a job, just so I could go, so I could live with him, just so I could go to the same high school for that last year. And what a sacrifice that was. You don't even know. I have a little story I would like to tell the listeners and you, because you might want to just think twice out there before you judge a book by its cover. Like I said, my dad came down. He was dating a really nice lady, and we actually moved into her home, and this was 45 minutes away from my high school, so he supplied an older model, big, long, light pink tinted Cadillac for me, all electric. Oh my gosh, pristine condition. This is what he gives his 16-year-old daughter to drive. And it cost $12 a day back then to get there and back to high school. So thank goodness I didn't have to do it every day because I would spend the night with my best friend Jennifer a lot. And then the other night she was at my place. I mean, we must have driven that girlfriend insane, 2 16-year-old girls. But my dad did that for me. And here's the point I'm trying to make with the judging of people. He comes down, and it's not easy. Oh, I can't just come down. If there's no pilot jobs on Lake Union or Lake Washington and Seattle, and they're taken, then you're looking for a pilot job somewhere. And he was, but in the meantime, he has to work. One of the jobs he took was being a security guard at a bank. And I think sometimes people walk around and they see a nice, not too old, but an older gentleman working at a job, and you know it's the most boring job you've ever had in your life. You just want to just get out of there. Well, my dad did that for me. And here he is, an accomplished pilot, flight instructor, and, college graduate. Well, standing there all day like at the door like that with security guard on his label. You know what I mean? Don't judge a book by its cover. And after that, he got an amazing job with American Airlines, moved to Texas. He had many, many years with them. And, there you have the rest of the story. So my dad made a lot of sacrifices for me. And I want him to know that I appreciate it. I acknowledge it. I know about it. And I think about it often. Thank you, Dad. And I love you. I love you, and thank you for being an amazing grandpa, too, to my daughter. And there you have it. We don't have my dad living here in California anymore, though. He moved to Arizona. So I'm going to have to say happy birthday across the miles today and not see him. And I hope he likes his present, which is this show.
Okay. Now, do you want to do the shout out?
Well, why would I do the shout out, Johnny?
Well, it's
is it
the
because
end
it's
of the show.
5:58 p.m.? Is it because it's 5:58 p.m.?
Yes.
Or is it because you are bored?
No.
Well, I don't want to do the shout out yet until I hear the rebuttal from Jonathan Alexander.
No, I'm not. I mean, it's fine. You don't have to do the shout out yet. We can keep going.
Well, the shout out takes seconds, and we have 2 more minutes, and I'd like to hear something from you. You know what I want to know? After hearing all of my stories today, knowing there's probably millions and millions more because you have 3 sisters and you have a great dad.
Right.
And did it ever occur to you while I was telling my stories that, wow, your dad influenced your sisters too in a great way by being a great dad? Did that happen during the interview?
Well, that did happen. I'll tell you a story about my father that really showed him as a great dad. This is really hard. My sister Chrissy, got married, and great guy, and everything. That really wasn't the problem. The problem was that my brother-in-law's dad passed away 2 days after the wedding. And
oh, wow.
So it's kind of like, we're here having this wedding, and, his dad couldn't go to the wedding because he had a heart attack. And then 2 days later, he had another heart attack and he passed away. And it was just sad. I mean, we were my mom was crying. I mean, my sister was a mess. And the thing is that people were kind of at the wedding, they really didn't know how to act towards my sister or actually my brother-in-law, because it was like, do you tell him your father will be okay, or do you tell him congratulations? Nobody knew what to do. And I only met the guy literally seconds, literally a few seconds. I met him for a few seconds. And I never met him. And I guess the reason why that's important is that my sister got walked down the aisle by my dad, So he was supportive for her when she was sitting around worried about Todd's dad. And,
okay, let me get this straight. Todd, who she was marrying that day,
yeah, right.
His dad passed away during that, or just had the first heart attack during the wedding?
His dad passed away 2 days after the wedding. What had happened was, it was like he had a heart attack.
He had a heart attack. And during that wedding, he still was in the hospital. Everybody was worried. And you're saying people didn't know how to react to her because it was a very sad time. Okay, and her dad, walked her down the aisle, which is pretty customary. And
also supportive.
He was supportive. So
yes.
Did she feel like, okay, at least I have my dad by my side? Is that
it's very sad. It's very sad because, this is about fathers, so this sort of falls into line. But I mean, you're getting ready to get married, and then your dad's not at the wedding because he's in the hospital, and then people are wondering, it's sort of like, what do you say? It didn't really feel like a wedding, is what I'm trying to say. It felt more like it was sort of a sad occasion. And
they knew he was going to die. They thought maybe.
Well, it just seems like, okay, it's like your father has a heart attack, okay, and you're about ready to get married, and he's not at the wedding. It's just people. We would see the pictures of it, and then you would see the pictures, and the people, they look like they had the forced smile, And
I don't know, Johnny. Come on now. Stop. Maybe you're reading way more into it, because that's not what this man wanted at all. And he's probably up in heaven, turning over in his grave. Mm-hmm. What he wanted was the wedding to go on, because I'm thinking they probably thought maybe we should cancel it, No,
they went on with it. They went on with it.
Well, I'm not saying I know. I'm just saying this is probably what he wanted. He wanted to know that his son got married while he was alive. And he didn't want everybody to feel sorry for him while they were at the wedding. I hope other people enjoyed it, because it didn't sound like you did one bit.
No, actually, I enjoyed it, but to be honest, it felt a little. But I didn't handle the funeral. Was hard for me because I don't handle funerals. But I will tell you this: my sister had 2 children, and what happened was that the first kid, we call him Dan, but his real name is Raymond, which is Todd's dad's name.
That's nice.
Yeah, Raymond.
It's special. So dads have a lot to do with who we are, and there's a lot of touching stories in every family with a good dad in them. And we appreciate you very good dads out there, and say, keep on going, because we acknowledge you, and it's not going unnoticed. It's not. Right, Johnny?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay.
All right,
well, now I'm going to do the shout out, okay? But I'd like to say one more thing, because I know I'm going to say, oh, I forgot to say that, or I forgot to say that, or I forgot to point that out. The great thing about this podcast, Life, Laughter, Happiness, is that we could come back and talk about it again and add to it, right, Johnny?
That's true.
Okay. I want to say one last thing, one thing that was the coolest thing. I have the dad that was the car collector, and that's why I have such love for a great classic car, a great, fine piece of machinery. Okay? I do have that. He instilled that. I remember as a little girl just watching my dad do everything on the car. He taught me how to change the headlights, change a tire. He taught me how to ride a motorcycle and shift. By the time I was 14, I was already driving a stick shift. I could drive a 3-speed van shifting on the column. Okay, I could drive a tractor. I could drive anything because of my dad. And you know what? Just the confidence, like knowing that he knew I could do anything. First try or second try, I usually could do something, because that support and that confidence boost, it really is magic, and it does wonders. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. And we'd like to hear your stories about your dad. Please do not end the show. I'm not finished yet, Johnny.
Sorry.
We'd like to hear your cute stories and a story that means something from you. So come on over. Life, Laughter, Happiness, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and it'll lead to Johnny's and my social media. And if you'd like to listen to this show again, go to our YouTube channel. And while you're there, subscribe and like our shows. You can find all of them right there for your listening pleasure. On that note, I'd like to say happy birthday, Terry.
Happy birthday.
My dad, September 26th.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Good night, everybody. Good night.